years. All right. Thank you, Todd. Take it away.
All right. So thank you. Thank you to Theoris. Thank you to the .NET Consortium for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to share with you guys tonight. As you mentioned, I am Dr. Todd Wolfe. My LinkedIn profile is there. Feel free to reach out, connect. Also my email address if you'd like to connect with me directly. Just some opening questions while I just give a little spiel about myself. Hopefully I can see the chat window at the same time. If you guys wanted to share a little bit about who you are, what industry you currently work in, what is your current role, and maybe the number of years, if any, that you have in the software development processing space. Myself, I've been doing this for a little over 20 years now. I currently lead software development teams, still dabble in code and development myself, as well as I'm a college professor for Purdue Global, which is right there in your own backyard, for many programming classes. So these topics that I'm going to share, the content I'm going to share tonight is passionate to me because it's where the industry is heading and things that we're going to be seeing and leveraging. And I'd like to hear from some of you throughout the night to see how you guys might be leveraging some of these tools so far.
Hey, Todd, I'll keep an eye out on the chat and just let you know so that you don't have to keep on checking it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so guys, if you just want to share a little bit about yourself, and maybe I can, customize a little bit of the presentation as well. But if you have questions, and then if you guys can keep a lookout for questions. And feel free to ask. I'm not an all-knowing expert on this topic, but I'll be happy to refer you in the direction of additional resources or answer what I can. What I'm hoping to accomplish tonight for this presentation is to share some recent research that I've done from various webinars and AI uses in the software development space. I want to have a collaborative discussion around the topic of AI with everybody. So at some point this evening or towards the end, we'll just do kind of a roundtable. And then I'll also demonstrate some of the integrations of AI in our current tool sets. And with any luck, we'll all leave with some additional knowledge that we didn't have beforehand. All right, so what do you guys think about this statement? If you have bad engineering practices before you use AI in your software development lifecycle, you'll have bad engineering practices after you integrate AI into your software development lifecycle. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%, right? So AI is not a silver bullet to all of a sudden solve our organizational or our development challenges in our processes. It will not do that for us. So if we're going to ignore the flaws that we may currently have, throw AI into it, we'll still have those flaws afterwards. And we may even have some bigger concerns and issues because of AI. So keep that in mind. What intrigues me lately is how organizations, and this is really recent, as recent as earlier this week, some Gartner research that's been shared. You see that a large number of organizations that Gartner has been surveying are in that piloting phase, and as we entered the fourth quarter for this year. So earlier on in the year, we had a smaller percentage, and now what we're seeing is that companies are becoming more comfortable, and now they're into that piloting, experimenting mode of how AI can actually be helping them. And they're leaning, and the trend is showing us significant change from where we were very cautious about a year ago. And about a year ago today, I can remember ChatGPT was kind of hitting the mainstream news, and some of you probably remember that too. We didn't really know what it was yet. Many of us maybe never heard of it yet, but it was really starting to get a lot of attention around this time last year. And earlier on in the year, we were kind of looking at it from the corporate world of, we're not sure. It's risky. We're afraid of it. We've all heard some horror stories of code bases, company secrets getting indexed and trained in the training sets that are out there. So we're very kind of cautiously seeing what we could do with it. Now, as the year has gone on, 10 months later or so, we're looking at 78% feel the benefits outweigh its risk. What are you guys thinking currently? Are you feeling the benefits are outweighing the risk, or are you still very cautious?
For us and for me, we see a lot of benefit to it as long as we understand what we're doing. I think, some people have jumped right into AI thinking, oh, AI solves my problems, but they don't have an idea of what that problem is. And so by simply learning just a modicum about it, you can understand, I have found, to how you can work it into your system and where it fills holes. So it's certainly, the benefits outweigh its risks if you're applying it towards the places where it's most effective.
I would agree. Anybody else have a view? I see a couple posts in the chat about agreeing.
So Cindy sent you her information about connecting on LinkedIn. Matt agrees the benefits outweigh the risks. I'd be curious what other people think when you say the benefits outweigh the risks. Why? Like Danny said, what are the risks?
I'll have a slide towards the end about some of the risks to be concerned about, but one of the biggest risks, just having your data being shared as training sets that could actually be revealed in other engines that might be out there, or other people using the systems. So that's one of the biggest risks out there, but there's certainly other ones I'll share coming up.
Eric says misconfigured systems could be an issue.
Relying on it as truth, right? And it may not be accurate. You have to remember the public ones and the source of information at the time that it was actually learned on. So you'll see a lot of information that might not be current to today's current platforms or operating systems, right?
Oh, yeah. Eric also mentioned leading to access from attackers. Cindy says within the legal, they will want it behind their firewall or private.
That's one of the biggest things that we see nowadays, is having it behind your corporate firewalls and running your own devices in your own data centers to keep it so that the information does not get out and get used accidentally into training sets. Certainly the case. So good. We'll talk about some more of the risks coming up. So one of the reasons why I chose this topic, and one of the reasons why I focused it on the SDLC, on this chart shared again by Gartner here recently, from some recent surveying they've done, look what group within your organization is one of the highest adoption rates right now. Software development teams. IT in general overall, but software development, and seeing that 21% of what they survey, they're seeing that use. I know, working in the space, that I've used it for making my day a little bit more efficient, and we'll talk about some of those ways coming up as well and demonstrate some of those. And I know many individuals are just using it even as a quick knowledge-based fact-finding approach, just to answer questions and be better at giving responses than just like random Google searches of what we used to use in the past. So anybody surprised by the percentages here or where it stands out?
I'm not, but we've actually been trying to implement it. So customer service, pretty big. Software development team, trying to make sure that doesn't become our replacement for Stack Overflow or thinking for yourself. Really, the big issue is, does it become you're not thinking for yourself, like you were saying earlier.
Yep.
Are you going to share these slides?
Absolutely. I will.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely.
So if you send those to me, I'll upload them somewhere, or just give me a link where you have them posted, and I'll add that to our meetup page so people can review this later. Thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so software development teams, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. All right. So what I find astonishing, by 2027, 70% of professional developers will use AI-powered coding tools, up from less than 10% today. So Gartner's expecting this to be the next big, change for us in the industry across the way we do our work today. So what also led me to why I wanted to cover this topic is one of the biggest challenges that I see as a professor teaching new software developers. And I've heard a few of you who are looking for jobs that have maybe dabbled in Python, learning Angular. The cognitive load, this concept of cognitive load theory, is really what is hindrance to us in the ability to actually work in this industry. It's a steep learning curve, right? And there's so much noise and so much that we have to work through around trying to grasp the concept. So I look at this as ways, if I'm going to help to produce the next generation of software development developers as well as future leaders, and what I do in my organization, I help to develop future leaders of the company and the software development space. It's all around this cognitive load and how AI can help us reduce that and actually understand the technology sets we need to work with to drive efficiencies and to do our work smarter and better, all at the same time as co-partnering with the technology. So if you're not familiar with the cognitive load theory, that's a pretty cool, interesting topic around helping put things at people's fingertips to work and learn things faster than if they were doing it through some of the traditional models that are out there. So there's concepts around intrinsic, extraneous, and germane load. If you guys, the definitions are all there for you. So again, it's a very interesting concept, but really helps us understand the learning process theory. And the goal, again, is to successfully complete an activity. Like as a developer over the years, there's been time and time again where I've been like overly frustrated, you run into a wall, and there's just so much content and so much material out there, you don't know what to do or you don't know how to put the pieces together. That's where, in working in conjunction, one of the things I've been trying to do in the teaching space is to show students how they can leverage the capabilities of the chat integrations or the ChatGPT integrations and the AI integrations to learn the programming languages and learn what they're doing at a much faster pace. And I've been seeing some real value there. For me, if I look back over the years, so I started doing this in the late 90s. In my mind, in many ways, the tools were simpler. I'm not saying programming was easy. It took a lot of hours and time to actually pick it up. There was less tools to work with from what I have to touch today or different technology sets that I work with today. The tools weren't really integrated at the time. We didn't have a lot of readily available resources. And some of you may remember going to online forums and posting a message of what you're trying to do, hoping another senior developer would get back to you. There were some things like ICQ channels and AIM and Yahoo Messenger. We used to open these things called textbooks to learn how to program from. Anybody remember those kind of horror stories? So in recent
Sorry,
years,
I missed the last 20 seconds.
no worries. In recent years, we've probably advanced that to using Google searches in place of the textbook lookups, Stack Overflow. I think I heard somebody mention Stack Overflow earlier today. What would your life be like in the last 5 years if you didn't have Stack Overflow as a developer, right? Or working and trying to find how things to do. Problem though, we're getting overloaded by Git repos that are out there, lots of source code available. It's hard to believe there's over 350,000 NuGet packages that could be valuable to us in some way, shape, or form. The numerous amount of frameworks to choose from, depending upon the space that we're working in, right? It's makes it very hard for us to keep all of that material, like know which one to use, when to use it. We'll use Discord and Slack channels. I heard of a new type of communication channel here earlier tonight, not Discord or Slack. A few years ago, everything was Slack channels. Now it's Discord. YouTube videos, we get a lot of our material from YouTube and going out there and hoping to do a search and getting someone else to demonstrate what we're doing. IntelliSense saves us a ton of time. It's not perfect. It's actually gotten pretty far along the advance for single line code, but it's still not ways to make our lives super easy yet. The integration of tool sets and dev suites that focus more towards DevOps capabilities have come a long ways. The limitations, of course, that we still deal with, though, none of this content or these technologies that we can go out there and leverage help us reduce the cognitive load. Most of it contains static local knowledge. Nothing's dynamic. It's not machine learned. It's not within the context of the things that we're typically doing. So you don't get like multi-line results of code chunks out of it or anything, or tips or any pointers. So the limitations are still very much the case, and it doesn't help us become more efficient in the work that we're doing. So we're constantly switching windows, we're constantly doing searches, we're constantly trying to refer to other material just to efficiently do our jobs. But there's a lot of distractions that come away to do that. So with all of these limitations, this unsustainable load is on our technical resources. So we have enormous amount of enterprise code that we have to go through and understand, becomes barriers to comprehension. If you ever think about when you walk into a new company or to a new contract and you have to start getting into their code base, typically you don't have enough resources who already know it that can share the knowledge with you. There won't be enough documentation, or there isn't enough documentation in the code itself to understand it. All of those open source code dependencies, they're all for different problem solving needs. They're time consuming to understand them and to know which one is for which purpose and which one's the best to use at a certain time. I remember many years ago when jQuery came out, those of us who wrote JavaScript were always pulling jQuery into our web projects, and jQuery became like the quickest or most popular JavaScript library on any website across the world. And it was probably a good portion of the time, maybe 50% or more, you didn't even need jQuery. Plain old JavaScript is all you actually needed. So we'd see these dependencies and we just grab them. Go ahead.
I was just laughing.
Yeah. So there's this whole site out there. It's like, you may not need jQuery, I think it's called, just because devs just chewed up that framework and used it for everything, the simplest things. That constant switching between coding and searching, along with other disruptions, our attention span is shattered. Like, I really need to, take the watch off, turn the phone off, and shut down completely to focus in if I'm going to work on a coding project these days. If you're in an office environment, I mean, think about it from a perspective of all of the meetings, jumping around from meeting to meeting, having to be pinged on Teams. You still got your emails, you got your own personal devices, and whatever's happening outside around your office environment, either at home or in the office, the attention span isn't there. So anything that can help us better focus and to achieve the desired outcomes is going to improve that overall experience, help to breed the new set of tech talent that's going to work in the industry, as well as produce efficiencies. So the future of that's going to revolve around generative AI. And there's two main vectors to that as it is right now. We have the plugins that are out there, and we have conversational. So with the plugins, they're going to be directly available to us in our technology tool set. And we'll basically interact with them as if they were part of that tool set. Nowadays, most of the time we're actually enabling them. We're actually adding in some extra extensions or enabling them. But in the newer software products, and we're going to see this more and more on Microsoft products today. They just released their CoPilot for Microsoft Office integration. It's going to be there. It's just going to be available to us, and we'll just be used to it, and we'll be able to leverage it in all of the different applications that we do. And like I said, we're seeing that with many of the vendors out there in the development space. We're kind of seeing it still in that plug-in capacity where we have to add a little bit of a capability to it. But so when your organization adopts, when Microsoft makes it actually feasibly, as far as cost-wise to adopt it, you're going to have that in all of your Office products and your experience when it comes to the new CoPilot release that's out there today. So that's context aware. It knows what's going on around it. Ability to filter, produce really relative fragments or entire code blocks to quickly apply and then to do your work so much faster than you could in the past. That conversational element where you don't have it actually in your tool, the integration isn't there.